IT.
No, no, mate. I take a similar approach to all my bikes as well. I'll just fix this little thing, and then like everything falls apart. And I have to think,
like pedals drop off, obviously off the computer as well. Pedals drop off the computer. A crankset drops off the computer.
Yeah,
all kind of things like that.
Bike in for a service a little while ago, and the amount of bits they had to replace on it was ridiculous. Like, basically, every moving part had to be replaced.
On your training bike or your race one?
Training bikes. I've ridden through about a dozen floods recently, and it's just all gone. No, we don't like that.
I've just done the same. That's one of the things I was doing today when I was out erranding. Was been trying to find a local bike shop to this place that is not like a little sort of one-man band business bike shop, like is something that actually that specialized in like higher end bikes. Mm-hmm. So I found one which is about half an hour drive away, which isn't too bad.
Is it Swinnerton's?
No, they're called Velo Bavarian.
Oh,
they're a Cervélo dealer.
Oh, okay, cool.
They're Cervélo, Cannondale, PMC, and Pinarello dealer, I think it is. So, but I'd spoken to them a few times in the past, but it's quite a small little shop, but they seem to know what they're doing and they can service it in like in a few days. So,
are they from Bavaria? Is that even a place?
Sounds like a place, doesn't it? It's near.
Yeah.
It's near. They're near Derby. Didn't do that.
Right. Okay.
I mean, you know this part probably a lot better than me. So.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit. I'm not local anymore.
Pardon?
I'm not a local anymore.
No, I mean, your dad is.
Yeah, he lives probably like 4 miles from you, I think.
It's nice. It's nice to know that there's someone local in the Buckley family. You know.
Yeah, mate. Well, as soon as I'm allowed to go up there, I'll be right up and we can go for a ride.
Yeah, definitely. I
haven't seen him in like a year now.
It's crazy, isn't it? So Monday was my dad's birthday.
Oh, nice.
And he's like 62, 63, 60 something. And I was chatting to him on the phone. I haven't seen him in it's probably 2 years. It's probably 2 years because when the first lockdown came in, I was going to go over there when we just came. I was going to go just after we came back from Spain.
Yeah.
And because I hadn't seen him in probably nearly a year, so
he's in Isle of Man, is he?
Yeah, he's Isle of Man. Yeah. So they've just gone into a lockdown 2 weeks now.
Mm-hmm. Was anyone in, will they?
No, but this is their first proper lockdown on the island.
Right.
Yeah. So they closed the borders before, but then they reopened them, and since then the cases have come in, and now they've gone into a proper lockdown as of 2 weeks ago. But could I don't know when. I don't know. They've given an estimated end time yet. But I called him up and I was like, "What are you up to today?" And he's like, "I'm gonna have a bacon and egg sandwich." I was like, "Fair enough." That's pretty much
the lockdown dream.
Yeah, he's like, "Have a bacon and egg sandwich. Might go for a walk." That's about it.
Yeah, we're running out of things to do, aren't we? It's been a full year of lockdown.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
They joke about it all the time, like, "Oh, what should we do tonight? Stay in,
watch something on Netflix again."
Yeah, bike ride. Yeah.
Oh yeah. We've both done the thing which I think is probably one of the most stressful things you could do in lockdown, which is moving house.
Yeah. Couldn't have picked a better time to do it though. I think like for me anyway, there was no race season.
Yeah.
So having a couple of months off to like move house and sort the place out and deal with some other life stuff, it was probably pretty good timing, to be fair.
Yeah. You moved, was it last summer?
We moved here in August, end of August then.
Yeah.
So it's like 2 months of building up to that point. It's not just like book a moving day.
Yeah. It's Yeah, it's stressful. Like I've started recording anyway, and as I was saying to you earlier, like I'm pretty run down, and I put it down to moving stress. And like we've already said, like we talked last week anyway, and we just sort of said last week. So anyone that doesn't know, Ken is my coach. I would think most people probably do know that anyway. But we spoke last week, and we sort of said, I said to you, I think it was on, I can't remember. I spoke to you. Was it Saturday or Friday or Thursday or something? Anyway, whenever I spoke to you, I just said like, not going to do hard stuff right now. I'm fucking exhausted.
Yeah.
And I'm still exhausted. So just.
I think it's because we were going to do this podcast, weren't we?
Yeah, that was this time last week.
I think we've tried like 4 times now to do this pod.
Yeah. So I have had my internet installed this morning. So I've got internet now, which is great. But yeah, we had to delay it. And it's why I haven't actually done a podcast in, I think, 2 weeks now, because of the timing of the previous episode and moving. And to now, I think it's about 2 weeks. By the time this one will end up going live, which will probably be at some point in the future, I'm going to say.
Probably.
I'm not sure when, not sure exactly when. But yeah, I've been trying to pencil one in with you for ages, and not necessarily because you're my coach, but more because you are a coach and also an incredibly talented athlete in your own right. Oh, you're blushing. And what I mean, it's, you hold a land speed record. Like, that's pretty mega.
Yeah, it's quite cool. I think everyone knows me more as a coach at this point. Like, I've been in it for 6 years now. And I think more people now know me as like Coach Ken, but than like someone who does bike races and time trials and that kind of thing. So
he's actually quite good at bike races and time trials as well.
Quite good, I'll take that.
Well, what was like, your times for, you raced the national TTs not last year before, didn't you? Because it wasn't on last
year. Yeah. 2019 was the last time I've raced at all, really.
Yeah.
We did the national team time trial champs with the other Noon Sim Sports guys. I did the national 10, but had a bit of a shocker. And yeah, I normally just like shoot for the fast courses on the fast days.
Is that one in Wales?
Yeah, you get actual pros turning up on those.
Yeah, I always remember there's that one in Wales, isn't there, which is the downhill time trial. Mm-hmm. That's a great one.
Yeah, when I was living in Reading, like I must have made the trip down to Wales like half a dozen times, maybe 8 times.
Yeah.
And it was raining and windy and cold every single time. And I was like, is it worth it? I'm going to stop doing this. And then like finally caught a good day on it and knocked like 3 minutes off my best time.
It's such a quick course because it is literally, it's a slight uphill to the roundabout and then it's all the way downhill. It's literally, and then you turn back on yourself, don't you?
Yeah, well, I think the rule for CTT courses is the start and the finish have to be within a mile of each other as the crow flies.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about ticks that box. But if you go from the finish to the start, it's like a 10% gradient all the way.
Yeah.
You lose 300 feet vertically over the course of the 25 miles. Most of that is in one giant ski slope down a dual carriageway.
Yeah.
And flat for the rest of it. But yeah, it's a negative ascent, if you like.
Yeah, I've done that one once, and which would have been, I think, 2019, and it was there was just a crosswind across the whole thing, and there's one bit where it's like you generally have a bit of tree on the side, But there was one section where the tree is no longer there, and it felt very windy. All of the sun, I sort of went, shit. To a point where you just grab on the base bar and are like, fuck me, that was a bit much.
Yeah, man. I think people often forget that side of time trialing. Like, it's actually a skill to stay in the bars and not bottle it and be doing 50 mile an hour down a hill and actually like hold your nerve whilst you're doing it.
Yeah. I mean, you don't see many crashes in PTs, do you?
Don't you?
Many crashes.
I mean, there's the odd one here and there, but yeah, not half as much as crits and road races and stuff.
Yeah.
I think when there are crashes, they're a lot more serious.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah, I mean, because of the speeds, and as you say, it's in the UK anyway. It's half the time it's down up and down A roads, isn't it? So they're kind of. I mean, it is what it is, isn't it? We're lucky we've got such a big culture for it.
If you're dicing with cars and lorries on 70 mile an hour speed limits, like there's some inherent danger within that, but people weigh that risk up against doing a real fast time.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I like provisionally sent you a list of shit to think about.
Yeah.
Which I have in my hand, conveniently. And I'm going to like slowly sort of tick through it anyway, just in our discussion. So first thing I wanted to talk a bit about was your background, because you weren't always a cyclist, if I'm correct.
That's right. Yeah, I didn't start racing bikes until I was 24, 25. So I was really late to it. And I came to it off the back of 2 or 3 years as a rower. So like people always roll their eyes when you're an ex-rower.
There's a thing about rowers and cycling at the moment, isn't there, though?
There is, but at this point, like, I've been a cyclist for 8 years and a rower for 3 years. I don't really feel like an ex-rower anymore. But yeah, I took part in like a talent ID scheme back in 2007. After it was announced that the London Olympics, like, we're going to be here, like 2012, we're hosting it, and they basically put a shout out for, like, they said tall, sporty people looking for like an avenue to get into sport, and they were like looking for rowers, and then handball and volleyball. And they basically just said, if you're tall, come along, we'll do some testing and see if you're any good. But we specifically don't want people that already row or already do sports. We're looking for people new to it. And I didn't really do any kind of endurance sport at the time. So my dad just said, I'll have a go, rock up to it. And I went along to some testing days, one in Manchester, and then got invited along to a second one, which was basically like the people that they'd picked from all these testing days up and down the country. They took them along to Home Pierpont in Nottingham, just did the same tests again. And it's just like a collection of freaks from up and down the country. I'm the shortest guy there, and like barely scraping in the minimum height requirement at 6'3". There's like 7-footers there, loads of people like 6'7" and taller. So I'm feeling like the short guy. And like we went through all these tests and stuff. So they make you do like jumping and strength tests and a kilometer on the row machine. And then I did this like ramp test on an assault bike. So you know, that's where they've got like handles as well, and you're pushing and pulling with your arms.
Yeah.
So they did like a ramp test, but like competitive last man standing version, where they sort of lined up 6 of you at a time, and you all start this ramp test at the same time. Yeah. And the last one to stop is the winner, kind of thing. So just these absolutely brutal tests, and then like the coaches sort of took their pick of athletes and whatnot. And me and two other guys got asked to move down to Reading to start training full time, because the GB rowing team train just outside of Reading. They've got their own lake, and there's like a feeder sort of development team that row out of University Boat Club. So I moved down there pretty soon after that and sort of jumped into that full time, and basically went from doing no endurance training to 20 hours a week, most of it on the water, on rowing machines. And after like a year of that, my back was just wrecked, basically. And I tried to battle through the training plan for the next 18 months after that, and it was just not really going anywhere, because I would do half an hour, my back would be wrecked, and I'd have to stop. So I couldn't do the full training plan. So, and I'm like 24 years old, and I've got this option of taking a year out, doing rehab, starting again, no longer as an under 23, as the squad, never really achieved anything in it. And the choice was either like do that or switch sports and on career side of things at the same time. So that's when I started cycling. And like I always say to people that I didn't really choose to be a rower. I sort of like stumbled across it, and the sport sort of chose me, if you like. Cycling, it's the complete opposite. Like I wanted to race bikes, wanted to do time trials, and love it a hell of a lot more because of that.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, as you say, it sounds like you kind of stumbled into it because your dad sort of went, oh, you should maybe go along to this and see how it goes.
Yeah, one of his mates was like the age group indoor rowing world champion. He had a rowing machine in his garage, and like I went along with him and just did a few training sessions. It was off the back of that, really.
I'm just looking at Fee really awkwardly trying to get a bag out of the cupboard, by the way.
Is she necking all your stuff?
I think she's going to the shops. I'm not really sure.
You have to say going to shops.
You going to shops? She is. She said she's going to get some snacks.
Just getting snacks.
Yeah, she's getting snacks. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, I mean, your dad obviously had like in the back of his mind because of his mate. Really, it's just I find it ironic you saying that you were the short guy when you're 6'3".
Oh man, you wouldn't believe it. The collection of freaks they found from up and down the country. It was mad. Like the group of mates that I formed from living there, we go on nights out and stuff, and people would be like, "Are you a basketball team?" Yeah, there's all sorts there. One guy from the Orkney Isles, who's the son of a potato farmer, that had officially the biggest feet in Scotland.
We talking like this?
No, not that big. He was, what was he? Size 18.
Jeez,
I know, right?
That's longer than a ruler.
No. He only had 2 pairs of shoes. He had like a pair of Converse, which looked like clown shoes.
Yeah.
And some other ones, because he couldn't buy them anywhere. He couldn't even go to High and Mighty or whatever it is.
Yeah, the big people shop.
Yeah.
So you're saying,
funny, like,
God,
looking back on like that collection of like monsters, the people that have really made it out of that, like people that have won the genetic lottery, is not necessarily the biggest ones, the strongest ones. It's the ones with the most perseverance and the ones who just refused to give up, kept on trying. So a mate of mine, a guy called John Collins, who had been rowing since he was 16 and like begged to be a part of that training group that was all these freaks from up and down the country. And he's same height as me. Say I'm like half a centimetre taller than him. just 6'3", and like we're trying to battle all these monsters all the time.
Yeah.
And then eventually, like, they'll get injured or like move on to get a job, working whatever. And he just stuck at it and refused to stop. And he eventually made it onto the GB team, and he went to the Rio Olympics.
That's amazing.
Final, got 5th, and he's on track to go to the next Olympics, like, whenever that may be.
The one that may happen this year, maybe.
Yeah.
Is it? There's a point. There's a thing with the Olympics. Yeah. What do they do if it gets cancelled for another year? Like, where does it go in the cycle? Does it mean that the next Olympics is in 2 years, or does it mean that it's going to be 4 years from whenever it happens?
Oh, God knows, mate. Maybe they should combine the Summer and Winter Olympics
to the Autumn Olympics.
Yeah. Just do all the summer events in a really cold country.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Yeah, man. Greg Van Avermaet would love it though, wouldn't he?
Oh man.
Like, yes, another year of wearing a gold helmet.
Gold helmet, gold bike, gold band. Yeah. Probably got gold shoes and gold glasses as well.
Oh yeah, he's got it all at this point. He's like 6 years deep or whatever it is, 5 years deep into being an Olympic champ.
The thing is, like, I don't think in the Olympics before, I don't think riders really went to town quite so much with the gold as they have since the Rio one.
Well, I only really started taking an interest in cycling in like 2010, 2011. So I didn't have much knowledge of it before then. But I have seen out in Calpe, I've seen Alexander Vinokurov riding around on a metallic gold bike, whatever it would have been, Argon 18 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like completely gold, the whole thing. And that was only a few years ago. So he obviously...
Yeah. So, the Olympics. I really do hope it happens because it's like that one time of every 4 years where you just suddenly you watch every kind of sport in existence. You'd never normally watch, but you just watch it because it's there and it's to watch. And I've always thought with, like, on the cycling side, the road race tends to be really, really good. Like Rio was pretty nuts. You know, was it Van Vleuten that had that crash?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah.
No, it brings everyone together as well, doesn't it? The Olympics, everyone, it's all everyone's talking about.
Yeah.
You'll remember that. Oh, actually, I do quite like to watch archery and badminton.
I don't know if I've ever told you this. My dad, he's a motorbike racer. I'm pretty sure you know that. But
yeah,
before
sidecar stuff,
motorbike, stupid stuff. Before that, the reason why he got into motorbike racing was because he actually used to play. Is it badminton with where you hit it against the wall and it's a glass back court? Squash. He used to play squash at like a ridiculously high level, and he was asked to go to this new centre to play when it opened, and it was a glass-backed squash court, and it was like one of the first glass-backed ones in the UK or something, and he ran into the glass, and that was the end of his squash career.
Oh, really?
Yeah, seriously.
Well, he was banned.
Well, he hurt himself quite badly. I'm not sure. I'm not exactly sure what he did, but it's like a bit of a touchy subject to talk to him about. He doesn't really like to talk about it. I mean, he's funny about talking about things in the past anyway. Like, he doesn't really talk about the motorbike racing because he just has this attitude like, oh, it's in the past, it's done. But
yeah, that
came up once. I never knew about this, and it came up once when we were both drunk. So I don't really drink, so this is going back quite a few years. And it came up once, and I was like, how the fuck have I never heard that you used to play squash? And he was like, yeah, about that. It ended badly. And then it all came out about him running into a glass wall while playing. And I was like, okay, yeah, I can see how it could end badly.
Oh, mate.
Yeah. But
that's funny.
Going on to bike racing, as I've already sort of said, you're an incredibly talented bike rider, bike racer, super. Oh, I know he's going to get blushing. Super, not just not. And what I mean by this is you're not just strong. I think you race very intelligently as well.
I have to.
Exactly.
I weigh about 20 kilos more than everyone racing, so I have to be pretty smart about it.
And you still get results.
I like road racing though, because it's not just numbers game. It's not always strongest guy wins. It's you've got to be smart and apply yourself to it as well.
Yeah. Is there
I'm definitely not the smartest of racers, but I will happily skip a few turns here and there if it means it's a better chance of winning.
Yeah, but that's just as that's racing smart and being aware of the situation you're in and who you're around. But like, is there anything you think that you've like particularly learned from some really hilarious mistakes since racing?
I don't know, mate. I think you just pick up little tricks as you go, don't you, off other people, like how to get away with doing the least amount of work without it upsetting anyone.
Yeah.
This whole thing of like, oh, like don't shirk all the work. Like everyone's got to do their turn, but then yeah, I do end up seeing time and time again people like finally get into a breakaway.
Yeah.
They're in esteemed company, and like even at local races, you'll have like second cats doing the E1-2 races. They get in a break with all of these elite riders, and they're like, "Yes, I'm here." And they're like, "I've got to show what I'm made of. I'll pull all these huge turns, roll through for all these full-time Conti riders that are just like doing their local race."
Yeah.
And then, you know, they blow the ring off and don't make it to the finish. So I think like there's got to be a balance between, yeah, don't sit on the back and upset everyone, and like do your turn, but also like don't do it for the sake of it, just because someone's going to get upset.
Yeah.
Because people getting upset at you is the tactic as well. I mean, I've been shouted at by lots of people in lots of races. I've done some of the shouting as well. Yeah. It does end up being a bit of a tactic. It's like mind games. Just shouting someone's name, shouting hold the wheel or shouting go, and people will respond to it.
Yeah, of course.
Pull through. It's like I've done some stuff just at local races, like sitting on, like riding across to a group, sitting on the back because I'm a bit tired, and then sort of going, oh, no one's asking me to pull through here, no one's shouting at me. I'll just see how long I can sit on the back for before someone like starts messing about or notices. And like I've done 20 minutes worth of sitting on the back of a breakaway doing nothing, and these guys just pulling through. I'm like, if you ask, I will pull through. I'm all right now, but I'm not going to do it just for the sake of it.
Yeah.
So I think that's a whole new dimension to racing that people don't really get on day one, like their first race. It's just like deer in the headlights, like, oh my God, let's go. But it is just a massive game of chess half the time.
It's I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, racing. I've done a few rate crits and stuff, but it just doesn't. I don't think it interests me because, well, it does. I think I've just been unlucky at crits that I've done where there's ended up being crashes. Pretty much every crit I've done, there's been a crash, and it's just like, can't be fucked. It's like the race just gets stopped, or you end up in the crash, or you know, it's just like, well. So, but I think part of that is probably the circuits around London are not the best for crit racing. As in, Hillingdon maybe is the better of compared to Lee Valley, but Lee Valley I don't think is I personally think it's generally too many people on the track at one time. It's quite a technical circuit.
Yeah. I think there's a good mix of them. To be fair, there's technical ones, there's fast flowing ones. I think they've reduced the sort of field size limits in the last few years to try and stop them being a bit too dangerous, a bit too congested.
But you get,
I think they should apply like a different size limit based on the circuit, really, not just across the board.
Yeah, I'd agree. But
so like Lee Valley, Hog Hill, which are like quite narrow, twisty circuits, are very, very different from motor racing circuits like Thruxton, Goodwood, Castlecombe, that are twice as wide, not technical, and you can have 4 races at once on them. But they've just applied the same size limit.
Yeah, it does. I agree with you. It does. It feels like there's like some sort of inconsistency in the rules there, definitely. But yeah, I mean, for me, I don't know. The sort of a lot of the stuff that I do that are races, it tends to be like the tactic is like who's a day ahead of you or a day behind you, not who's within you in that, or I say a day, maybe it's a couple of hours or something, not who's directly in the close vicinity of you. But it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's very much about your own effort, isn't it? Rather than like short-term tactics, what's going on immediately around you.
Yeah, you have to, especially for like the 24-hour stuff, it's like, I think you spend 90% of that time probably in your own head, pacing yourself in your own way and following your own plan, and 10% about seeing who's actually around you and what they're doing. And like, and you know, if you see someone that goes past you, you kind of think, fuck, I shouldn't have let that person pass. But most of the time you're in your own, very much in your own world. Definitely for the 24-hour TTs, and then at the nighttime bit, when especially the nationals, when it's at night and you're on the nighttime circuit there, you literally don't have a fucking clue what's going on, because it's quite a small and surprisingly technical circuit, the nighttime one. So you're just kind of in your own little bubble. You might overtake someone, then you overtake, and you just don't really know where you are. And then when you go into the next morning and you get put onto the 2 daytime circuits again, no one really knows where anyone is in the race at that point, apart from the people like monitoring the race directly, which is their job. That's what they do.
Yeah. Well, they did an amazing job. I don't know how complicated it must be, marshalling and sorting out all those different circuits for the 24-hour time trials. So it's quite a complex affair. Like, it's not just like a 25-mile course over and over again. It's like circuits that you move to at different times of day and different traffic counts, and there's a circuit, and it's quite complex. So marshalling it must be an absolute mission.
Yeah.
What saying there about staying in your own bubble is a skill in itself, because it's a really easy thing to do, to get caught up in someone overtaking you or worrying about what position you're at, how someone else is pacing it. It could all go wrong for you really, really quickly. You go around, chase this guy down, do a really hard hour, and then all of a sudden you're bonking and you've messed your pacing strategy up and you lose 2 hours. I think that is a skill in itself, but not everyone can do that. I think you naturally have that ability to just keep going, like that ultra mindset. Also be able to do it off basically no sleep.
Yeah.
Like, of all the people that I've helped out through these like multi-day events, you out of anyone seem to cruise that one really easily. When you're tired, you're like, well, a little bit between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. But then, you know, like, how is that possible?
Yeah.
I'm exhausted after 3 hours.
Yeah, it's on that subject, on the subject of weird people's brains and minds. It's like, what you said something to me. This is coach and coach rider chat slightly. You messaged me something recently and was like, it was about time to exhaustion, and you were like, most people are like 30 minutes, 45 minutes. You're over an hour.
Yeah. So that's just a different way of looking at threshold power. So sort of moving away from what people traditionally think as FTP, 60-minute power, talk about it in terms of threshold. Some people will be able to hold their threshold power for longer than others.
Yeah.
And that just sort of influences what events you do, how you train them, and you have that particularly long time to exhaustion at your threshold power. And it really does range from like 30 to 70 minutes. Like it is quite a long, quite a broad range there.
What's the kind of, and yeah, I mean, that is literally what time to exhaustion is pretty much what it says on the tin, isn't it? It's the time for you to be fucked.
It's generally thought of in terms of at your threshold intensity. So like 30 to 70 minutes, like an 8 out of 10 effort level. Because different time to exhaustion at every different intensity. Generally in the Training Peaks WKO world, it's referred to in terms of FTP. What is your time to exhaustion riding at your functional threshold power?
Anyway, I could talk about that for ages because I thought that was funny when you
Nerd alert. That's one.
Solid geekery already in. Land speed record.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you some really short questions on it. How fast was it?
Shit. Don't. Oh, I knew you were going to ask me that. Hang on. This is what I should have on the tip of my tongue, but it was ages ago now.
Was it 2018?
So I've been able to take part in the World Human Powered Speed Championships 4 times. The first one was in 2015, the last one in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And we got the British record on 2 occasions, I think. In 2015, in 2016, and then we went a bit faster in 2017, but it wasn't legal wind, so it didn't count.
Yeah.
So basically, what happens is that there's an event every year out in America, in Nevada, in a small town called Battle Mountain, which has got this strip of road that is the fastest strip of road in the world. Perfectly flat, perfectly straight, freshly tarmacked for the event. At altitude, I think it's not like super high altitude, but like that sort of sweet spot in the middle where the air's not really thin and so much so that you can't do anything, but it is thin enough that you go a bit faster. I think it's at 1,400 meters, I want to say.
It's higher than being in the top of a 3-story building, basically.
Yeah, I might have made that up, but I think it's about that high. But
it
anyway,
sounded good. If you say it with conviction, it doesn't matter.
So the road's at 1,400 meters altitude. But it's super fast bit of road, and they like get a pass to close it every year for this event. And teams from all over the world build these crazy bikes that just intended to go down this bit of road as fast as possible through a 200-meter like time gun. So they have a 5-mile run up for this 200-meter stretch where they take your speed across that, and because it's only in one direction, there has to be like basically no wind at all. Whether it be headwind, tailwind, crosswind, whatever, it has to be virtually 0 wind for it to count. So they run it over the course of a week, and you get like morning and evening runs, and they time the runs to miss the school bus going past. Because it is on a proper, like it's on a legit road in between 2 like mining towns. So if there isn't a school in one of the towns, so the school bus like blasts past, and then they shut the road for 20 minutes at a time, and the bikes whiz down, and then they open the road again, and all the trucks go past. So you get like Monday to Saturday to like have a crack at these like super high speed runs, but because it's so difficult just to get a legal run, that's why they do 2 a day. So you got this whole week of doing these like max efforts twice a day, and the run itself, if it goes right, is about 5 or 6 minutes long.
Bloody hell.
They're like a steady build up to pretty much 45 seconds to a minute sprint at the end, if you like. And then that is like your sort of lunge for the line to try and get top speed. And I think the British record we set at 76.59 miles an hour, I think. And we did something in the 77s the following year, but it was too windy. But the world record is ridiculous. It's like 89 miles an hour from this Canadian team who just got this like epic rider, epic bike. They've done it for like 10 years or whatever and just absolutely got it down to a T.
Yeah, it's proper dialed in.
Yeah. And they basically did it full time. Like they got sponsors for it and it was their job to just build this bike to go as fast as possible. And I've sat in a few of these different bikes and they're just amazing. They're surreal. They don't really feel like a bike, other than the fact they've got pedals and wheels and a handlebar. It doesn't really feel like being in a bike because you're lying down most of the time, lying down flat on your back. So you're in like a supine position. So your knees are higher than your head, pretty much. And most of the bikes now are fully enclosed inside a capsule. Yeah. And there's a windscreen. There's a camera. Got a little camera sitting on top of the bike. So you're shut inside this little pod. Yeah. It's pitch black in there, other than the little screen that you're looking out of. And it's no bigger than an iPhone.
Bloody hell.
Like an iPhone screen with a tiny camera on top with like just a little bit of a delay from what's happening in real life to what you're seeing, which really messes with you. And it's not particularly high resolution. And because you're doing these runs in the morning and the evening, you're basically at sunrise and sunset. Yeah. So you have different light conditions to battle with. And you've not really got a sense of how fast you're going. Yeah. These bikes, so you blast through the timing gun at 70 miles an hour or whatever, and then you've got a kilometre of road to stop. And that sounds like a long time to stop, but when you're doing 70 miles an hour, that's like pretty much 30, 40 seconds to go literally out of 70 miles an hour as hard as you can go. Everything's absolutely mental to come into a nice gentle stop. And because you're trapped inside this bike and literally taped in, so for some bikes, they like Allen key them in. There's a team of people waiting at the end to catch you. So you can't just like stop, unclip, put your leg out because you're in this pod. Yeah. So there's people running up and down the road. The bikes are coming in like too slow, too fast. They're like catching them at 40 miles an hour. And because of the camera bikes, you can't, you've got no depth perception. So I've like got a radio on inside. And basically I had to time when I was going to brake fully to stop at the moment that the signal for the radio got strong enough for me to hear what they were saying. Yeah. Because I'm in like a 15 mil thick carbon shell. Yeah. So the signal doesn't really get in and out very well. So I'm just like listening out for the radio to bleep. And I've got like this guy at the other end going, okay, start to brake, slow down, brake, Ken, brake. Oh, every now and then. I'm like coming in a bit hot. So it is a really like niche event, really strange, but really like cool to be a part of. And I had nothing to do with the build of the bike. It was University of Liverpool mechanical engineering students sort of put the whole thing together. Did an awesome job. Built a new bike from scratch every single year, basically, which is
pretty crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, massive achievement in itself. And yeah, like it's just a cool thing to have been a part of.
Didn't you crash quite spectacularly one year?
Every year I've crashed. I don't know why they kept asking me back, to be honest. And it's the worst feeling as well, because you've seen all these students up all night, literally polishing the shell of the bike to make sure it's super slippery, super aerodynamic. And then you ditch it and put a load of scuffs down the side, and they have to do it all over again. But to be honest, it's never been such a delight to crash a bike into this shell. You just skittle along the ground, and yeah, you're going really fast, but it doesn't hurt. Having said that, there was one crash where the lid came off mid-crash, and I ended up going through a ditch backwards and like getting covered in my cuts and scrapes. But you know, it's fine. It's a terrifying event, but when it's actually not that bad.
So
along.
There was, I remember there's a video on YouTube somewhere, isn't there? And it's like you just go.
Yeah, it's this kind of angle.
Yeah. And then it just suddenly
inside the bike.
Hear it all kind of going all over the place.
Yeah, and then you hear me come on the radio go, "I'm all right."
Yeah, I remember that one. I remember seeing that thinking, fucking hell.
Yeah, it's called the Arion Project. So ARION, and there's a few little videos on YouTube, like blasting through the traps and a few crashes and all sorts of stuff. It's worth looking at because it's just different. I reckon it's going to be the future of how people travel. There'll be these kind of like velomobile style bikes. There'll be tricycles. There'll be motor assisted, and that's how people get around in the future. And once the price of petrol gets like stupidly expensive, or people get upset with like electric cars, like it'll be the way, man.
How did you find the difference from going like on a normal road bike position to the recumbent? Because I remember when I came over to yours once and sat in the recumbent bike, and it is the weirdest thing to try and ride full stop.
Yeah, it's really different. You literally have to learn to ride a bike all over again. So one of the years we did the project, they decided to interview some female riders, take a girl along, have a go at breaking the women's record. So I helped a couple of the female riders sort of learn how to ride a recumbent bike, and it's really difficult, man. It's like literally you roll along, fall over, and because of the way that they steer, it's like on a tiller. So if you imagine like you've got your normal steerer, stem and handlebars, the stem and handlebars are in front of the pivot point.
Yeah.
Bikes, they're behind it. So it almost feels like the steering is reversed.
Yeah. And
the stems are really, really long in some of the bikes. So it's like not even like a 15 centimeter stem. It's like a 45 centimeter stem. Like they're really, really long. So it's like steering a canal boat in reverse and lying down flat on your back, and the weight distribution is different. And it is a really weird experience. It's one of those things though, just like riding a normal bike. Once you click and you go, oh, there's the balance point, you do kind of get it. But you also then add on top of that the layer of being trapped inside a shell, and you can only see through a camera.
Yeah.
Because they've only got a tiny bit of the wheel sticking out the bottom of the shell, they have to limit the steering. Because if you steered too far, the tire would touch the shell and just explode.
Yeah.
Because they use small wheels, the number of like RPMs that the wheels are going around is like way higher than a normal 700C wheel. And then add on top of that, you're doing 70, 80 miles an hour. So it's like literally if that like tire touches the shell, even just for a second, it'll just explode. So they have to limit the steering to stop that from happening, which means I think in one of the years we had 5 degrees of steering either way.
That does not sound like a lot.
No, it's barely anything. So if you catch a gust of wind or you start off too slowly, you can't save a wobble,
Yeah.
tip over. So it is really a challenge to get the bikes going, to steer them, to stay calm, and then like actually pedal really hard.
But still, it's a really cool thing to get to be involved in, though.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So
I prefer racing normal bikes.
You can actually steer them properly, though, can't you?
Yeah.
Go around
when you crash, though.
Yeah, I guess there's pros and weaknesses to both, eh?
Yeah.
So I wanted to go into the stuff that you will be probably more known about is what you do as a coach. And I wanted to sort of ask, like, how long have you been coaching for? 5-6 years?
Yeah, 2015 I started.
Yeah. So why did you decide to coach?
Well, I kind of always wanted to since I started rowing, since I started cycling. I've always been interested in the physiology side of things, that whole experiment of, if I do this, will it work? Will I get faster? Just the process of being an endurance athlete. And I've been coached a lot in different sports. And off the back of that first land speed record attempt in 2015, I decided to get out of the job that I was in at the time. I worked for a software company, and just kind of jumped feet first into full-time coaching. I had all my qualifications that I needed, and just sort of put myself out there, give it a year, see if I enjoy it, see if I can, break even with it at least. And kind of it's gone from strength to strength from there, really. And I love it. It's just helping people, because everyone who's got even an ounce of competitive spirit about them is putting a lot of energy into riding their bike. They want to make sure they're doing the right things. So it's just helping people go as fast as they can and making sure they feel spending their time doing the right stuff. And it's just a really nice process to be a part of.
I think a lot of it is, for me, why I think it's good for me personally is, for me anyway, you're my mate, so I like chatting to you anyway. But having someone that you're liable to and who you can talk about, and I know I would be quite bad in the sense, for example, at the moment where I've been feeling a bit run down, I know in the past, and in fact, we know me in the past would just be like, fuck it, I'm going to get it done. And we know that because I did that and I got very, very, very poorly from doing that, which was when I ended up getting shingles. Yeah. And especially since then, I think it's having a coach has meant that it's like justification for not necessarily training if I'm not feeling well, for example, is being able to go, Ken, I'm not feeling good at the moment. I don't think I should train. And it's literally just you're right, that's cool. That is having that acknowledgement, and the kind of having someone that you feel responsible to is really, really helpful.
Yeah, I think being told that that's the right thing to do and it's okay to rest when you need rest just really is a relaxing thing to hear. Like, all anxiety of missing out on training and going slower just goes out the window when someone who knows what they're doing is saying, look, short term, you are going to lose a little bit, but long term, it's for the best. Because the worst outcome is going to be if you train through an illness or don't listen to your body when it's saying, I'm tired. So that is a big reason that people cite for enjoying that coaching process, that accountability. It works the other way as well. If you've invested money into someone designing a training plan just for you, you're more likely to go out and do it. More likely to peel yourself up off the sofa after a hard day of work and go, right, I've got an hour of training to do. Because it is one of those sports, as with all endurance sports, where the more time you put in, the more you get out of it. people, I've seen it time and time again, will do more training when there's someone telling them what training to do.
Yeah, I could completely believe that. It's that liability thing, isn't it? And that for me is where I see one of the big benefits of a coach, as opposed to using something like, I don't know, Trainer Road or Zwift's workouts, is because, you know, for example, if you were to use the Zwift workout system, you're paying for a Zwift subscription anyway. It's kind of like, it's just there as an add-on. So you can kind of go, well, if I miss today, it's kind of fine.
I'm a big fan of those systems. I think they're brilliant, because there is some thought that's gone into that training plan. There's structure to it. It makes sense, and will get people a long way. I see it as a bit of a gateway drug to proper coaching, if you like, because people will like either end up getting frustrated with it because they don't quite understand why they're doing these things, or they'll not see the results they want and don't know why. So they'll need that kind of feedback and a sounding board, someone to explain things to them. And like, you will get a few extra % out of your fitness and your times and your results if you've got a personalized one-on-one approach. I think it's the same with anything. Like, there's always a generic option that will be cheaper and good for like 80% of the time. And then that extra few %, you go for like the more custom personalized option. I see it as the same.
Yeah, completely agree. What would you say are like some of the biggest mistakes that people do in cycling that you see as a coach?
Well, you sent this question across to me, right? I have all the questions you sent me across. This is the one that I had the most to write about. My notes page on this, I was like, I should stop now. Because I do see a lot of mistakes, a lot of people just doing the same things over and over again, and often they know it's a mistake, but they do it anyway.
Yeah.
I think setting your training zones too high, setting your FTP too high, it's like mistake number one. People want the big number. They want to know that they're progressing. They have really high expectations on how quickly it happens, how often you'll see an increase in that threshold, and also they don't quite understand why it's there. It's to prescribe the appropriate training intensity. It's not to judge your character on, or how good a cyclist you are, as to where your zone is set. And I think the trap these days is, I'm a cyclist. Oh, cool. What's your FTP? It's what everyone's judged on.
Yeah, I agree.
Much more in depth and complex than that. It's not about just being judged by that number, but that is what people do, and that's why they want the biggest number possible. But that is a mistake, because it makes you train too hard. Every training session, you need to be on your best day, on your best form, to like perform out of your skin, and that doesn't happen every day. And it's really difficult on the ego to knock 10 watts off it, to knock 20 watts off it. And it happens every year, even with the people that I coach, who get to the end of the season, have a few weeks off, and then we'll come back to winter training, have a reset. And I go, right, okay, so we're going to reduce your training zones because you've had a few weeks off, you'll be less fit now. And they're like, what? What do you mean? I'm like, well, you didn't train for 2 weeks, so you're going to be less fit. But the numbers are always supposed to go up. I'm like, yeah, they will go up eventually, but it's not a linear thing. I think people expect it to be linear. The more I do, the higher my FTP goes, and it will just continue like that forever.
It's like people playing I don't know, Super Mario Brother, trying to level up all the time.
Yeah, I'm level 10 now.
Yeah. But as you say, it doesn't.
9 again.
It doesn't work.
I'm going to open the blinds a sec. 1 minute.
Let there be light. Yeah, you're right though. It's like, because we dropped my zones after, it would have been after the big silly ride around the UK because I took like a month off.
You can see my lockdown haircut now. Now they open the blinds. You can see I haven't had a haircut for 4 months. I wasn't webcam ready.
That's why I've got a cap on, because it hides it all.
Yeah. Hang on, I've got a selection of hats down here. And team Cliff Bar hat. There you go.
There you go. Yeah, and the thing about people always going, "What's your FTP?" Like, there's so many things that can alter that. Like, you know, I think people have this perception of like, oh, you know, my FTP is higher, that means I'm stronger, but it might not be that way. You know, when you bear in mind people's weight, and also on like a ride or a race, whatever it is, how someone's feeling as well massively plays into it.
It's stronger at what as well.
Yeah,
I think there has to be an end to that sentence. It's not just FTP equals stronger. Like, what are you trying to be stronger at? You need to go like several levels deeper than just, oh, I need a bigger threshold. Like, it is a good performance indicator, but it's not the only one. And if you go too far down that road of just trying to make your threshold as high as possible, at some point, it becomes a trade-off against other elements of fitness that you might actually need to get the results you want. I think that needs to be taken into account as well. And again, like you mentioned earlier, time to exhaustion. It could be that on day 1, you could do your threshold for 30 minutes. And month 3, you can do it for 70 minutes. So don't sit there thinking, oh, my threshold hasn't gone up. Like, it might be the same number, but you can do it for twice as long.
Which is a great improvement
to it.
Yeah.
Just trying to get my angles right here, mate.
Trying to get your
best angle. Yeah.
It's like with and also, as you say, it really depends on what you're training for. Like, for the stuff I do, you know, being able to produce a sprint isn't really relevant. I very rarely do over like 1,000 watts or anywhere near 1,000 watts, and it's normally by accident if I do.
You have done over 1,000 watts.
I have done over 1,000 watts.
I looked at this earlier, actually.
It's not common.
Well, it's not a given that everyone can do over 1,000 watts.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you say, it's not critical to success in your event. So you don't need it.
Yeah.
You've done over 1,100 watts, mate.
There you go. Got big boy legs.
Seconds. Washing it out.
Big boy legs, mate.
Easy.
I grew them myself. Go on. What's another one on your list?
Hang on, let's get the list up. Takes a while to load. All right. Biggest mistakes people make. Doing too many hard days on the bike and not really acknowledging what a hard day is. Because it's that kind of sport where you ride your bike a lot and you do hours and hours and hours, and people sometimes forget that going out and exercising for 3 hours is hard.
Yeah.
That's not what normal people do. If you compare it to your average gym goer, someone that pops to the gym after work, that likes to keep fit, if you said do 3 hours on the spin bike to them, they'd be like, have you lost your mind? And they'd be knackered the next day.
Yeah.
So we sometimes lose a bit of perspective on what a hard day is. And there are some things you can put in place to like categorize hard versus easy. But I think, again, like with the FTP thing, ego gets in the way. I can do a 10-hour ride, so a 3-hour ride's easy. So, well, that is the case, and it's not your maximal effort, but that doesn't mean that it's a restful, easy day.
Yeah.
And it can be quite a fine line as well. It could be the 20-watt difference between something that will tire you out, something that won't, something you can recover well from. and something that will really affect your performance on the next day. So just acknowledging what a hard day actually is, I think is quite a difficult thing for someone to do. And just thinking that you can train hard every day and that's the answer to getting stronger.
Surely that's going to start to cause serious overtraining and fatigue.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The biggest part of my job is getting people to slow down. Trying to convince people that an easy ride still works. You will get fitter even if your legs aren't hurting. Even if it's not your longest ever ride or as hard as you can go for 2 hours, it still works. It still will make you stronger. If your heart rate's elevated, if you're sweating a bit, that is going to make you stronger if you do enough of it.
Yeah.
Just focus on like increasing that quality training, increasing the volume. It doesn't have to be killing you every day. And in fact, you'll go better if you're not killing yourself every day. Like, keep it simple. 2 days a week, I'm going to go really hard. Everything else, I'm going to keep it super chill and aim to ride longer rather than ride harder. Just follow those 2 rules and most people will find they'll get stronger if they give it enough time.
Yeah, I guess it's that, as you say, it's allowing yourself to adapt to that change. And it's to train properly, there's no easy win. It's a long-term thing. Yeah,
that's another one on my list of mistakes people make. Just having unrealistic expectations on how quickly things will change. I'm at 300 watts threshold now. How long do you think it'll take to get to 400? I'm like, right, well, years. It depends. It depends. Have you been at 400 before? Like, is 300? Has it taken you 10 years to get to that point? People have like they want it all and they want it now, and patience is such a virtue. Like, that's what I was saying about those guys I used to row with. The guys that ultimately made it are the ones that just kept going, didn't give up, didn't stop, just followed the plan, kept at it year after year after year. Those are the guys that will really see the big results, not the ones that are impatient, go too hard every day, rush it, want a 20% increase in a month. It just takes time. The biggest challenge is seeing those small improvements in your numbers month by month, because they're hard to spot.
Yeah.
Like the kind of stuff I send you every month, I'm like, oh, look at this. We've gone 2 watts harder there for 3 beats on your heart rate. That's a great improvement because you're years deep into this process. So actually quite small improvements are really hard fought and worth celebrating. You're way down the spectrum on that diminishing returns arc. Like, we've got the big chunks of increases out of the way. Now it's really hard for a few little percentages here and there.
Yeah, it's all with me, it's always the increments now, and which is fine. Like, is what it is. I think I've got to a point, very much thanks to your help and from like listening to a lot of books and stuff, of going, you know, part of it is your understanding genetically what you can do, where your body can actually go. Like, from what I've learned is that I can go for days, just ride. Like, the time it's irrelevant to me. It just seemed I can, if I need to, just put my head down and carry on. But that's taken a lot of time to realize that I can do that.
Yeah.
And years of coaching and advice and support from you to really understand truly that is a strength that not many people can do as well.
Yeah, and like everything's trainable ultimately. Nothing's set in stone. That, like, someone says, oh, I haven't got a good sprint, it doesn't necessarily mean you can't have a good sprint if you really want to. Or like you said, you feel like you can ride all day if you need to. Someone that feels like they can't do that doesn't mean it's set in stone and they can't train in that direction. I think everyone has a predisposition, like one side or the other on that one.
Yeah.
But often, like the determining factor for me, I think, is not so much genetics. It's more how badly do you actually want that element of your fitness to improve? How much are you willing to commit to it? How long are you willing to keep going down that path to be better and better and better at it? That's going to be the limiting factor way before your genetics come into play.
So it's motivation, isn't it?
Yeah, and like level of commitment, like aligning someone's goals with their level of commitment is really important. Like, and that sounds a bit wishy-washy, but if someone said, right, I've got 3 hours a week to train, I want to win the Tour de France, you'd be like, well, it's not going to happen. We need to align those two.
Yeah.
That's just sort of what I'm talking about there. And like, if someone wants an extra 100 watts on their FTP, but they can't commit enough time to it or aren't willing to for whatever reason, then those goals need to be adjusted a little bit, and that's okay. It falls in a different place in everybody's list of priorities, and that's fine ultimately.
Yeah.
I think smashing yourself to bits every day is not the answer.
I agree. I mean, yeah, I kind of think I've done that in years. Just continue. Well, actually, no, I did it last year, 20 days.
Yeah. Well, your smashing yourself to bits is very different.
Yeah.
It takes you like 8 and 10 hours of just battering into headwind in Scotland.
Fuck that headwind. Fuck it. Oh,
mate, that Tour de France thing you did was obscene. That was like by far your biggest challenge to date.
Yeah, it was.
That little, like, document I wrote you with all the numbers and all the stats on it of like how many hours you did compared to the actual Tour de France and how many kilojoules of work you did compared to the actual Tour de France was just mad, mate. You wouldn't have been able to do that 4 or 5 years ago.
No way. No
chance. Absolutely no chance.
And I think I said to you as well, because we spoke quite a lot about it afterwards, I don't think it probably hit me how fucking hard it was when I finished. Because during it, I was just
better it happens then than halfway through.
Well, I think during it, I was just kind of in the rhythm of it and just like getting on with it and kind of, you know, it was a routine. It was get up, have breakfast, get on the bike, ride, get some food for lunch, finish, eat, sleep, repeat. And it was just like, that was the routine. But I was finding, as I got further into it, I was finding that I was feeling more, I guess more fucked at the end of each day, closer to lunchtime, as opposed to nearer to the end. And that's just accumulated fatigue, really. And I mean, the guys that filmed it, they were like, they thought, they were always like, you're scarily cheerful for most of it. And I was like, well,
yeah, I don't know how you manage that, mate. I'm a grumpy bastard after 3 hours. You did like 3 40+ hour weeks in a row.
Yeah.
Last week was 45 hours of riding you did. It's just mad.
Yeah, it was fucking hard.
Major kudos for that one, mate. It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
nothing big, please. Next challenge, do something shorter. Don't make it bigger every time.
Well, we did
make it more interesting, make it different. But I don't go, I'm going to do 2 Tour de France's.
Mate, I don't think I cry. Yeah, I was going to say, do you know what goes through the back of my mind half the time when I'm thinking these ideas is, what's Ken's reaction going to be?
Do you remember my reaction to your 107 challenge, the first one you did?
107 along the lines of, you fucking idiot.
107 days.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, when are you going to have a rest day? And you were like, I'm not having a rest day. It's 107 days in a row. I'm like, Chris, but you're going to need to rest at some point. You're like, no. You're nuts. But you did.
Did it? Still did it. That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Mate, that one blew my mind as well. You managed 107k of riding a day, every day for 107 days, despite Christmas, despite a storm,
Birthday.
despite your birthday, despite having the shits.
Yeah.
That was the biggest one. You moved the turbo trainer next to the toilet for a day because you were going in between the two.
Oh,
That
this is true.
Like prime for a rest day.
And the thing is, like, I forgot about that one.
Yeah, I don't.
Oh, man.
When you said, I'm going to do the Tour de France, I'm going to do 107 miles a day, it's like, plan rest days.
I did.
France takes a rest day, you take a rest day.
And that's what we did. And
I'm glad you did.
Yes, I am bloody glad. I kind of wish I was in better places for the rest days, though. Like, there's not a lot going on in Carlisle, to be honest with you.
Well, mate,
Edinburgh.
you should have just been sleeping for those.
I think I spent the rest day in Carlisle, I spent it with my basically laying on the bed. I walked to the Tesco around the corner, bought a bag of snacks, laid on the bed, put the bag on my chest, took out something. I was like, yeah, that'll do. Eat that.
Yeah, should have done Deliveroo, mate. You should have stayed in bed. Someone go to the shop for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that was, I mean, the thing is, like, with everything this year, like, I everything's a bit up in the air this year. Like, I haven't publicly said what the kind of things I'm thinking about this year. And that's intentional. You know what I'm thinking about, but the intention of not publicly saying it is because I don't really know if it's doable, when it's doable, all that kind of thing. But I'm hopeful that things can be done towards the summertime.
Well, hopefully, if normality starts to return after this June date, then fingers crossed we can start to like travel around the country a bit and stay overnight at places and do some longer events and race and those kind of things. Like normality will return.
Yeah, of course it will.
So difficult at the minute. It's like the anniversary of lockdown. Like, who thought that was going to happen?
Yeah.
Started. Everyone's just so tired of it now, so bored. It's really setting in. So, like, there's light at the end of the tunnel. We need to do our best to be optimistic.
Yeah, it's very true.
Will get better. It will return to normal.
And like in the meantime, like I sort of said at the start of this, like I'm very open to the fact that we've sort of talked a bit about moving and how much of a stress that takes out of yourself as physically and emotionally, as we've both moved house in the relatively recent time. And I think the first thing I said to you when we spoke was, I'm not riding today. And I said, because I'm knackered and I feel a bit rough. And we spoke about my training sort of plan for this month, and we stripped it right back this week to just basically go out, and I think it's literally like just go out for a couple of hours as and when, because the goals realistically for me and for a lot of people aren't going to be till the summer, and there's months ahead of that still. There's still a couple of months.
Yeah, and like there is an advantage to staying consistent and keeping on riding, but you have to time these like bursts of motivation and hard training so that you can really capitalize on them for those times when it's important to be really, like I said before, it's not a linear thing. You can't just always be getting fitter and fitter and fitter. You need to time it well to actually make the most of it.
Yeah.
You just got to go out and find some new roads, mate.
I've got a few here. I've got a different background from usual podcast recording. This is a very large mirror, in case it was confusing. Right. There's also a small mirror here because I haven't moved them around in the place they should be. But normally, I mean, this here is just a shitload of picture frames because I've got all my artwork and stuff just on the floor. But normally behind me, there would be a massive pile of boxes because I was in the old flat. But now there's, you can now see a pile of boxes in the mirror, basically. Actually, that's actually 2 garden chairs that haven't been made yet.
Oh,
Yeah.
have you got a garden now?
I've got a garden. Yeah.
Whoa, mate.
It's a bit small, but
it's out of London, isn't it?
I moved out of London for a garden, and yeah.
Is that so? Is that like a signature of your podcast? Then you've got to have some boxes in the background.
I think unintentionally, yes, because the last like 5 or 6, because I put my flat up for sale in October, I think, and maybe September. It might have even been September, and I had to put a load of stuff into storage while the viewings were happening, and then I took all the stuff out of storage because I only had a discounted price for it for 2 months, and then it doubled, and I was like, I'm not paying. The double price was like £600 a month, and I was like,
what?
Yeah, I was like, I'm not. I would rather
rent a house for that.
Exactly. So I just had loads of boxes lying around because my planned move, the intention was to move before Christmas, but it all ended up getting delayed so much because of stuff out of my control. So I just had loads of boxes, which is why there's always boxes behind me.
Well, I'll tell you what, mate, 5-6 months to go from house on the market to move in, that's not too bad.
You'd take that. Most people would take that.
It took us a year.
Yeah, exactly.
Went on the market in August, and then we moved at the end of the following August.
Yeah. It
took a while.
It is a long process. What are your plans for this year?
Like racing wise?
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be dictated by what races are on the calendar and what we're able to do. But I've been trying to win a National B road race since 2013 now. And that's still number one.
Yeah.
For me personally, my racing ambitions. I also would like to get a personal best on a 10. I now live about 10 miles away from the fastest 10 course in the country.
That's why you moved there.
Yeah. So it'd be rude not to try and get a PB.
Yeah.
I've done 18:19. So 18 minutes, 19 seconds for a 10, which is like too close to sub 18.
Yeah.
Not really try and go sub 18. Because that was on like an average day, but or an average ride. I'm like, I could just like keep trying to do that. Because right when I started time trialing, the competition record for a 10 was Bradley Wiggins, 17 minutes, 59 seconds.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's amazing. How does anyone possibly do that? That's unbelievable. And it's now like 16 minutes and 20 or something like crazy. So
16.
And there's a whole handful of people that have been under 18 minutes. So I would love to be part of that club. And I've got a stupid looking helmet and expensive bits to attach to my bike. So that might find me a few seconds. You never know.
Expensive bits to attach to your bike?
Yeah.
I mean, I know all TT bikes are expensive anyway.
The forearm extensions, all made out of carbon and all fancy pants.
Nice.
Yes, mate. So we'll see. We'll see. Well, everything has to go really well to get a personal best on a 10.
Yeah.
Good weather, good ride, good everything.
Good face.
Good everything.
Yeah.
Like a National B, have another crack at them. Hopefully there'll be a few decent ones on the calendar. There's not a lot on there yet, but they're going to be stacked as well, because we might be in that position where all of the UK domestic pros and continental teams can't travel to Europe, haven't got much of a racing calendar. There's not many Premier calendar national events. So they'll all trickle down to the national Bs a bit more than they might do in an ordinary year. So they're going to be jam-packed with talent, which makes it more difficult, but all the more rewarding.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite. And what's your best at a national B?
I got second more times than I care to mention. To be honest. I've got an embarrassing amount of second places and not having won one. I think in 2019 I got 2 second places in national Bs and a handful of top 10s.
That's annoying.
Very annoying.
Yeah.
And it was always people on UCI Conti teams that were pipping me. But we'll get there, mate. Just never give up, innit?
That's what they say in rowing, I've been told.
Well, I've just gone up an age category in the Masters thing as well. So it's taken me a while.
Well, I'm technically... Masters is 30, isn't it? Was it 31?
If you're 30 in the calendar year...
Master. 31 now, aren't I?
Yeah.
Old shit now.
It's not proper Masters though, is it? The British cycling one.
Nah.
You can't be 29 and calling yourself a Masters athlete.
I don't think you're really a Masters until you're like 40s.
40, yeah.
Because that's kind of like you would, if you were a pro, unless you're Valverde, you'd retire.
Yeah, he's like 60 now.
I thought he was 65,
Something like that.
It just seems to keep going. I think they've just injected him with some like lifelong serum.
Well, he's been injected with something, hasn't he?
Well, on that subject, let's not go into it, right?
Yeah, he's got the suspensions to prove it.
Yeah, I know. I'm just not a fan of him. There's something about, I think, from him getting suspended, it kind of lost my... I didn't like him anyway. I just thought he was a bit of a snake. And then he got suspended and I was like, well, he's definitely a snake.
I don't know him.
And then the fact that he comes back stronger from his suspension and like just seems to win everything. He just doesn't quite... I don't know. It just doesn't add up.
I don't know.
Anyway.
He's an impressive athlete.
Oh, you can't deny he's an incredible athlete.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him win something. What is he, 40 or 41 now? Genuinely, I think he's definitely over 40. I'd love to see him win a stage at 40. I just think it'd be brilliant.
It would be mind blowing.
Yeah, sets that kind of that standard of like what's the potential in a person, because there can't be many pros racing at a world tour team ever.
Who's that other lad, David Rebellin, who's just signed another pro contract at age 50?
What?
Yeah, I know, mate. Mind blown.
And there's still hope for us.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah.
No chance of me getting there.
There's no chance of me getting there. If there's no chance of you getting there, there's definitely no chance of me getting there. I pre-warned you on this, and you're lucky because I don't pre-warn everyone.
No.
How I like to end podcasts is 5 tips or hacks, and it could be anything. I think I even said to you, it could be whatever you want, but to give you like some kind of other examples. Yeah, I wrote, these can be absolutely anything. To give you some like other examples is previously I've had one which was like, there's been like cooking tips. There's been using strawberry lube to seat tires.
Excuse me?
Yeah, exactly. I know. I bring that one up on almost every single episode because I thought it was
to put tires where?
So to seat a tire, if you can't, like if you're trying to seat a tubeless tire, strawberry lube.
Okay. Why strawberry?
Because it was the only thing he had in the car at the time.
In the car? Who is this?
Andy Carr from Spoon Customs.
Right.
He was basically taking a set of I think it was like a demo bike with some wheels, and the sealant had the tubular setup on them had unstuck or something, and he had strawberry lube in the car and thought he'd give it a try.
In his dogging starter pack that he had in the glove compartment.
In his, I love Andy. This is no dig, but it's hilarious. And in his van, I'll add in.
Right.
But yeah, no dig.
I wrote down some life hacks and tips.
God.
As requested, and because I'm extra, I wrote down 6.
Oh, all right.
These are all coachy ones, though.
That's good.
I put my coach hat on.
Nice.
Number one that all my riders love is I'm always banging on about fueling your rides. And I'm always trying to get people to think about fueling in terms of grams of carbohydrates per hour.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what all the recommendations in the literature are framed as. 60 grams of carbs an hour, 80 grams of carbs an hour, 100, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
So my top tip is to count it all out before you go out on your ride.
Yep.
So if you do a 3-hour ride and you know you've got to eat 80 grams of carbs an hour, if you haven't got 240 grams of carbs in your bottles and your pockets before you leave the house, you're probably not going to eat 80 grams of carbs an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So top tip is count it out before you leave the house. And that probably goes on to the next life hack / tip, which is have a goal for your bike ride. Understand why you're riding your bike that day.
Mm-hmm.
If you just go out aimlessly and you do a bit of this, a bit of that, I'll ride hard here, I've got tailwind here, I'll have a go at this segment, you never really truly progress in a long-term setting. If you understand why you're riding your bike that day, you're more likely to actually achieve that.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be super complex, super complicated. It could be like, today's goal is recovery ride. I want to feel better at the end of it than I did at the start.
Yeah.
It would be today's ride, I'm going to ride as long as possible, but keeping it really easy. I've got to keep my heart rate under 110. That's my goal. That's why I'm riding. Mm-hmm. And it really helps you stop getting distracted by all these other things that might pull you away from getting those really good benefits of a quality training ride.
Mm-hmm.
So that's that one. What else did I write down? Get a good power meter.
Yeah, very important.
Life hack.
They're so accessible now as well, price points, aren't they?
Yeah. But what I see from loads of people is by the time they're buying their 3rd power meter, they realise they need to spend money on a really good one. Not just try and get the cheapest one possible.
Yeah.
What else did I put? Race tyres are fine in the winter now.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Most recent life hack. I've been riding GP 5000s all winter. All conditions.
I agree with that. I've been using Schwalbe Pro 1s all winter.
Yeah, nice.
If I haven't been on Pro 1s, I've been on Pro 1 TTs because I like the tan wool, which is supposed to be their most fragile tyre.
Yeah. And have you had any issues?
No, touch wood.
Mate, tubeless is awesome. I'm a big fan.
I'm with you. Do you remember when we were in Mallorca? Sorry to change the subject. And it was you, Callum, and myself, and we descended a descent together, fucking rapid. And we were trying to work out why we thought the 3 of us ended up going so fast compared to everyone else. And we all were like, it's because we're all on tubeless wheels.
Must have been.
we got wrapped up behind a lorry at one point, didn't we?
I can't remember. It's probably because we were trying to keep up with Callum.
Yeah.
He's mad.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was probably we were trying to keep up with Callum. It was before getting into Soler.
Yeah, I can't remember which one. I thought it might have been going back home in Mallorca, like back into Puerto Palencia where we were staying. It's like the older Femenia, I think, coming down.
Yeah, it might have. Mate, it was like 3 years ago now.
We got so wet on that training camp.
Yeah, it was a great spring
training camp, and my Garmin died because it got so much water in it from all the spray off the road.
You spotted another one, didn't you?
Yeah, and I got stitched up, the only Garmin on the island, and it cost me 600 quid.
Yeah.
Stitched me right up. And I went out to that camp with one pedal packed in my bike box. I had to buy a whole new set of speed plates.
Yeah.
That one.
I remember us having it hailed when we were all back at the place we were staying. It was hailing in the garden once or twice. And we just sat and watched Jackass.
Yeah. Warm weather training camp, everyone.
Yeah.
That's the other thing about this race season, isn't it? No one in the UK has had a training camp, really.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very different. And the only people that have are those people on the Conti teams. So again, if they all step down to race the National Bs, they're the only ones that have done training camps. It's going to be nada. Do you want some more of my tips?
Yeah, go on. Hit me.
Keep a training diary. Sounds fucking obvious, doesn't it? But people don't do it. It's just a little comment after every ride, how it felt. Was it hard? Was it easy? You can glean so much insight from that when you look back on it.
Yeah.
Because if I said to you, 12th of September 2020, how did you feel in that ride?
Fuck knows.
I don't know. But if you keep a training diary, add a little thing, you go, actually, I felt really good on that ride. I did 3x20. I'm only doing 3x18 at the minute, so I know that I can do 3x20 when I'm on good form. So just keep a training diary. It doesn't take a second. And I'm not here to moan about anyone or criticize anything, but my number one pet peeve as Coach Ken is when I see people upload their rides to Strava with a really inventive, beautifully crafted title on the ride, and then there's no fucking notes and training peaks to tell me what the ride felt like. Pet peeve number one. That's not a dig at you. I don't do that actually.
No, I don't do that. Comments. I don't even change the name of my Strava rides pretty much ever.
Morning ride.
Yeah, morning ride, afternoon ride. It's almost always morning ride.
Yeah. Is that enough tips for you, mate?
I reckon you've kind of nailed the level of tippage. It's a good level of tippage.
Nailed my tip in.
Oh, Ken.
On that note, if it's going down that route, we should end the podcast, shouldn't we?
Yeah. Thank you so much for talking bollocks with me for an hour and a half, maybe.
Whoa.
It's 20 to 7. 20? No, it's not. Well, I'm making time up now. It's 20 past 6. It's definitely not 20 to 7.
Yes, it's dinner time.
It's dinner time. I have no idea what I'm going to have because there was nothing in the fridge and Fee went to the shops. So, surprise dinner.
Fee special.
It's going to be a Fee special, or it's going to be baked beans.
Who cooks more, you or her?
To be fair, we actually cook together.
Team cooking.
Yeah, we always cook together.
Cute.
Yeah, that little love heart thing, isn't it?
Cute.
I think because we both like cooking, so we just do it together. And
who's the chopper?
Fee is the onion chopper. I'm definitely not the onion chopper. I can't deal with onions. My tiny eyes with onions.
Tiny eyes.
They're basically closed. I'm just like,
I think it would be harder for the onions to get their way into your eyes. They're so tiny.
But when they do, it's dangerous. It's a sorry world we live in, Ken. It's a sorry world we live in when those onions get in my eyes.
First world problems right there.
Exactly. Anyway, thank you for your time. Have
You're
a
welcome.
lovely evening, and I will no doubt talk to you probably in about 5 seconds when I stop recording this.
Yeah.
Now.